How's it, everybody? Welcome back to the Positive Hour. I'm Travis, and this is Brother Nate.
What's up, my brothers and sisters?
Today's topic, children, discipline, and communication.
Yes, sir.
Help people out with, or try to help out with what we do with our kids. That works, I guess, kind of works for us, I would say. And our philosophy behind what we think works with our kids, and how we look at things projected for the future for the kids, how it will affect them. Mm-hmm. Nate, what you think?
Yeah, I think disciplining the kids is one of the most important things in life, because it all comes down to what you do with your children when they naughty and they don't listen. That reflects on what you are. So most likely the outcome of your children is how you was as a parent. That's how I feel. So I think it's very important to keep an eye on your kids. I think it's very important to educate them on their mistakes, punish them according to what they do, and always having a good communication with them, so you prevent them from lying a lot. Talking to them, asking them how was their day, what's wrong. I think the most important thing to do is to correct the action early instead of trying to do it late. As the human body gets older, we get more mature, and then we get more of a sense of independence. So if you do not check your children or discipline them, I feel in the beginning, it's gonna have a hard time when they're in adults or in their teenage years, because now they're getting influence of going to work, going to college, leaving home, and all that. They become more confident hearing that kind of things. I gotta prepare for my future. I gotta work. In that aspect, you're gonna get a hard time trying to correct them if you didn't do it earlier. You want them to understand that there's consequences in their actions, good and bad, which I think is very important. And as you raise them early, you should identify the consequences early. Correcting them right away when they disrespect their elders, or they talk back, or they do things that are conniving, like stealing or taking things that are not theirs. Stop them right away and educate them on why, if you don't stop, these things can happen, and not letting it go. Not letting it go and letting it fester and saying, they're going to learn. Correct it now. What do you think, Jeff?
No, I definitely agree. Raising kids, if you want, in my opinion, I think if you want to raise kids and you want them to be good or successful, or it's kind of hard to say, but try to raise them the best that you can to be as good as they can possibly be, and have respect and integrity, honor, all that kind of stuff. I think it starts when they're little, and it's not easy to raise that. Because I see a lot of parents a lot of times nowadays, they just want to feed their kids an iPad and just be like, yep, here you go. Or when they just go out, they just let their kids just run rampant. Mm-hmm. And there is no consequence that they're doing. And you're seeing it happen with a lot of the newer generations. I mean, and it happened with our generation, but I think it was fewer. And then granted, you go back to our parents or our grandparents, it was even less. But I think it was not only the fact that they had a different structure, but there was also, back then was, you screw up, there was no talking. It was just you getting lickings straight up, and you didn't even want to get lickings. Mm-hmm. I think people nowadays are just being very soft on their kids, or I want to give them what I didn't have. That should be thrown out of the window already. It should be, if you are an adult, that's, you're living, you're successful in any, you think yourself as you're successful, or you're doing decent for yourself, you should raise them how you was raised to be there, but push them to go further. Not just be like, oh, I never got this this video game before, I'm just going to give you this video game, or I'm going to get you this toy because I never got it, but I want to get you everything that I didn't have. It should be, getting them things is great, but it should be a reward. Work for the reward. For instance, for my kids, if they want to do something, they know every weekend they have to, or every day actually, they have to vacuum, clean the table, do the dishes. All three of the older ones, the 6 month, I can't do that yet. Child labor cannot. But you know what I mean? They have that chores they have to do throughout the week. Without question, they have to do it every day. Come the weekends, they know that one day on the weekend we're gonna clean the whole house, the whole yard, everything. And the extra day that's there, or if they finish it fast enough, we can do stuff. And the next day for sure will be a play day that they can have fun. That's the reward. Also with them, I like to bring them to the shop, and I tell them, if you guys want to work and make money, what it will be is you can come to work on the days that they're not at school or whatnot. They can work, and then at the end of the week they'll get paid just like a real job. And what they wish to do with the cash is on them. It's just to try to instill a work ethic into them.
Yeah,
and
important.
Just try to see. I mean, and if people don't have that luxury to bring them someplace or their workplace to try to work or show them, then do it at home. Hey, you guys gotta wash the car, and they're gonna suck at it when they first start. But just be there and work with them. Be patient, even though they do it kind of not so good. Take a before picture and an after picture. Let them see that most of the dirt's off anyway. And then just say, you did a decent job. Don't ever say great job or good job, because they're gonna think that's it. Or you just say, I'm very proud of you on the job you did. And then you point out, next time when you do it, you see these little flaws, this is the things you want to get out. But you did a great amount of work, and you did to the best of your ability. This is the things that you want to work on. That's just my beliefs. What you think, Nate?
No, see, I think it all comes down in the discipline factor. Like teaching how to have discipline and to push, to be thriving, to be better. Have the discipline to buckle down and not falter when it gets hard, or be there with your kids when it gets hard. Especially when they make mistakes and stuff like that. How harsh are you with them? Do you scold them? Do you spank them and leave it at that? Or do you scold them and spank them and explain to them what they did wrong and try to work with them? It's an important step. If they're kids, right? It's like every building block, right? You start from the ground up, and then later on it comes this massive structure. Same with your kids. It's gonna start from the bottom. You gotta dig deep. You gotta instill values. You gotta instill a good, strong foundation with your children. And I believe with a shot of a doubt, if you are there with your children, you speak to them, you talk to them, you love them, they don't want to make mistakes because they want to make you proud. And also you want your children to talk to you when they make a mistake and want advice. Very important. And you have to instill that, and that's what the parent has to do is love in the disciplinary factor when you're correcting them on a mistake. You don't want to just tell them, hey, stupid, you never do that right, or belittle them and leave it at that. Because if you belittle them, they become a belittled person, and then they become numb to it, where my dad only yelling, so they're going to pretend to either do what you want them to do and do completely what you don't want outside. And that's the one word that every parent knows very well. It's called rebellion. You don't want them to be rebellious, and you don't want them to be sneaky, where they're only one way with you and different out in the world. You kind of want to instill your values so that when they leave, they take the best part of you and become the best part of them by learning even more on their own. But you want to, I believe, in a disciplinary factor, you want them to understand structure, like Travis was saying. Work is very important. Make your children work, because when they go out in the real world, they're going to work, and the reward is their pay. Now, if you don't let them work and you don't make them the best at their work, they're going to get small paying jobs, or they're going to become bums and leech off of you, or they're going to leech off society. You want them to create a structure, a foundation for themselves and their family by teaching them work ethic, to work hard. If you work hard, you get this. I'm a firm believer, if they work hard, you pay your kid. You give your kid an allowance, what they call. You give them an incentive to do it, because that's life. How you get raises? You're a boss, you got to work hard, and you got to show the boss what you know and what you can do.
You got to improve.
And the outcome is a raise, is money. So I really do believe in a fact when it comes to discipline, like when you disciplining them and they're showing improvement, You have to reward them and acknowledge the improvement. That's the most important part when it comes to discipline. You have to acknowledge that they did a good job, that they put themselves out, that they were honest, and that they improved, like he was saying. That way they can move up and try to push even harder. And then also the disciplinary player can get harder.
Yes.
Because you want them to understand that life is not easy and no one out there really don't care, especially when it comes to work. They have to understand this. They have to, understand that the only way they can improve in their life is to keep striving to be the best at what they can do. And that only way that can happen is if they have full support from the parent. Now, I'm not saying hound your kids, but check on them, talk to them. Don't be afraid to listen, because I had a problem when I was growing up too. When I was younger, I didn't like to listen too much, because I didn't have anyone listen to me. It was always, hey, stop crying, stop grumbling. Just do it. But they don't understand. I never understand. Just do it. I just thought I had to do it because. But then I grew up a little bit hard, a little bit not as helpful, if you could say so, and you kind of get a chip on your shoulder, a little bit, and that made me be a very unpleasant person to be around. So I took that, and I still did my kids. I pushed them, but I also encouraged them, and I also encouraged my child for telling the truth, even when they did it wrong, and I kind of rewarded them for that. What you think, Trav?
Definitely, I can agree with that whole thing, on everything you said. Pushing them and making, I like the part of pushing them and making the punishments even more extreme, because nobody will care about you. I mean, a lot of people probably watching this would agree. Nobody really cares. When you come to the point that you're going to figure out that nobody really cares, and there's very few that truly, truly care and want you to succeed, you're going to see that if you don't prep your children for this when they're younger, again, with discipline and communication, they're not going to be ready for the real world. Everything that you're sheltering and coddling them with is only going to be detrimental. And like I said, I see it as people that I had that work for me as employees, or even as when I was in the field and I had apprentices or even coworkers work with me. I could see who was silver spoon fed, and I could see who got it rough. And I could see the difference between the two. I could see the ones that was pushing to try to get somewhere. I could see the ones that was just like, nah, mommy and daddy got me. I don't need worry. And you can see it. If you actually pay attention to a lot of people that you cruise with or seen or coworkers or friends, you'll see who it is. The ones that are a little bit more softer and I would say like nonchalant, or don't really care. Oh, nah, no worries, I can get them anyway. And you see that they get backed up by their parents for monetarily, or even if they have a kid and they just always just drop the kid off and they don't do their responsibility. You can kind of see probably how they were raised. And with the generations coming up the way they are, and the things that I've seen, having a structure and having discipline and teaching and communicating with them. Now, discipline comes in all different forms. Discipline doesn't always mean you have to lick them or give them lickings or spank them or whatever. Hell, mine one is, if they don't listen, what I do now is, instead of me getting all mad and yelling right off the bat, what I like to do is just, hey, you're getting punished. Go outside, you got to do burpees, or you have to go run light pole to light pole. And I make them run until they're like huffing and puffing. I tell them, bro, if you want to run slow and think you can play me, you're just going to run even longer in the hot sun. I don't care. Like, punishments like that work. Or we were doing writing sentences, and I'd give them kind of a mass amount of sentences to do, and I tell them the longer you take, the less you can play. Or what else I did? Burpees, running, frog hops. You just got to get to the point of psychologically where they're like, I can't do it no more, and you're telling them, no, you're going to do it. You're pushing them. You're making them mentally mind strong, mind over matter. Because in real life, when you're at work, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people can vouch for this, your boss pushes you to some points of where you're like, I don't know if I can do this. So most people are going to complain, and there's very few that just going to try push.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, and how you discipline your kids and how you push them to get through that part. Disciplining meaning pushing, understanding the the struggles and trials, and be able to think, process that. We can teach our kids that. We can teach them to be strong and disciplined in that area where we're not gonna buckle.
Yeah.
When the boss comes to push, but we can instill that in our children when they're young. Go ahead, Trav. Sorry.
No, definite. So, my older son, when he does stuff, I always tell him, I was like, bro, I notice a lot of the kids like to just give up. Regardless, doesn't matter generational. When they get busted, there's a bunch that give up or they don't want to make it right. And when he makes mistakes, I tell him, bro, why do you give up? Do things and make it right, bro. You made the mistake. Own up to it. And then say, what can I do to make this right? Immediate. I was like, that's going to build a character of your children. And, you know, a lot of people, I think a lot of them feel like they feel bad. Like, oh, you know, I did this. I should just do this for them. You're making everything the wrong way. And a lot of people our age is saying like, oh, wow, look at the generation. They're lazy. And look at our parents. They're saying even worse. Oh, the kids are even more lazy. You see it on the news. Where there's a lot of violence, and the older generations are like, you know, it's lacking discipline.
That's the main.
It's
the main
lacking,
thing.
and I hate to say it, but it's a fact.
It
You gotta
is-
lick
it
your
is
kids. You gotta
Yeah.
lick them. You gotta make them come right back in line. Check them. Don't let them run you over. CPS come, that's all right. Guess what? They would rather stay with you as long as you're not beating them up and abusing them and like freaking elbow dropping and slamming them on the ground, but you're disciplining them in a you know what you call it what it I don't even know the word I'm trying to think of, but you
Don't
just
spare the rod. In other words,
like, I'm not saying go over there and just punch them in the head with your fist, but you know what I mean? If they took something that they're not supposed to take or touch something, and you know you already talked to them and it wasn't working, then tell them, open their hand, spank their hand. You know what I mean? Make them learn that there's a consequence, because if you don't check that now, when they get older, they're gonna be stealing, and guess what? If they're stealing in their teens, you as a parent's gonna pay for that. One, monetarily out of your own pocket. Two, your kid's gonna go to jail. Like, you don't want that to happen, so you gotta make the consequence now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, now, if they're just not listening and playing around, I'm not saying go beat them right there, but that's where you just tell them, hey, stop. They don't want to stop. Stop again. 2, 3, bam. Guess what? Go outside and go running. You guys have so much energy. Let's burn it off. You know, you got to make the consequence stick. If they continue to not listen and they're just being a menace to everybody, you got to spank them. Give them lickings on their butt. And, you know what I mean? Or you can try time them out, but it doesn't work all the time. If you do time them out, if they're all the friends playing, time them out in a corner where everybody can see. They're going to think about it while everybody's playing.
I think it's important that you do spank your kids, because if not, somebody else going to spank them.
Yep.
You know, like a teenager or their peer going to false them in their mouth and hurt them really bad. Somebody else may hurt them if they think they can do any kind of things to people. They can talk to people the same way. Okay, how your kids talk to you, you got to correct that. Because they talk to anybody else in a bad day, they might even do worse. They might even just shoot them.
Yep.
We know guys who just kill people over just eyeing them and looking at them. You hear that all the time back in our day, just getting stabbed because the guy was looking at him funny. What if he had something in his eye or something? You know what I mean? That didn't matter. You know, it's important how they react, how you react to your kids. Now, don't beat them out of hate or anger. You know, you spank them out of love. That's what, because you want them to also not. Then you don't want them to also start hitting people for no reason either. My father ain't lick guys. Guy talk to me like that. I'm gonna lick guys like that. No, you gotta understand that there was one reason why he got spanked. So I also believe if you spank them, you gotta explain to them why they got spanked, and you have to love them. After you have to love them, hug them, and make sure that they're okay. That way they understand that, hey, even though I messed up and I spanked, my father still loved me. Because they're gonna do that in the world to somebody, and nobody gonna give them one hug after they get cracks, and they might lose drive. Self-esteem might go low. Like, oh man, I got lickings, and they're not gonna know how to recover from that. But if they do try and they do say they do make a mistake, right, and they get bust up in the world, they're gonna remember. Oh, remember my dad was saying I shouldn't have talked like that.
Yep.
I should have understand that. Always get my grandpa used to always tell me, boy, don't think you tough, because you always get somebody out there tougher than you. You know what I mean? Always get someone out there tougher than you. So in aspects, you know, you want to show respect and discipline amongst your actions outside as well, and teach your children that. Don't like going to people's house. Don't let them run around people's houses, run amok. That's not their house. Correct them right away. Correct them. Let the people know around that, hey, I am trying to raise my kid the best. And they're going to be like, oh, wow. And they're going to have compliments. They say, oh, your kid is well behaved, yeah? He speaks really nicely. Yes, because you have to correct them on the spot. Not, hey, I like this. It's, auntie, may I have this?
Please.
Or please. Or, no, or like, you want this? Yeah. Yes. Teach them how to talk and how to react in areas that need to be shown respect. That also teaches them that when they apply for a job later on in life, how they perceive. How you perceive is how you get hired too. If you're on punk, you're on chip on your shoulders. Nobody like hire that. Nobody like hire one dysfunctional person that can cause chaos. You know, you have to learn how to work with people and work together and know how to be filtered and to be quiet. You teach your children not to talk. I'm a very firm believer when adults talking, children don't talk. I'm old school like that. They never put in their time to tell me any advice yet or to speak. They need to say, excuse me, pardon me, can I speak now? And if not, no. You sit there and be quiet. That's how I was raised, and that's how I raise my children. I want them to have respect because I want people to like my kids. You do. You want your people around you to like your kids.
It's true.
Because when they leave you, they're not going to be with you all their whole life. You want people to like your kids. You do. Because that teaches them how to be social and how to be friendly and how to be cohesive in society. You understand what I'm saying, Trav?
Definitely
You want
agree.
people to like your kids and not be like, oh man, they're here again. Oh man.
And remember now.
You know, it's very important that you teach your kids. Sorry, I almost bought it. You teach your kids how to be respected in society, if that makes sense, or conduct themselves in society. Go ahead.
No, and remember, how the kid's gonna act in front of you because you're the disciplinary is one way. You really want to test out to see how your kids really are when you're not there, and see what people have to say about that, because they can act one way with you, and people be like, oh, the kids are the greatest. But in reality, try put them in one job setting and find out what their bosses or peers really say about them. It will really change and blow your mind. Like, holy smokes, I thought I did so good, but I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of people don't realize that. They're like, oh, no, my kids are great. I'm going to tell you this right now. I hired and fired over 300 guys, and there is very few that I would actually say was very great. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And the guys that's all working for me now has proved their worth and whatnot. You know, that I can vouch for and say, you know what, these is good kids. But for the most part, if you look at that number, that's 11 out of like 300 something guys that went through. That's a retarded number. That's my God, that's like less than 3%.
Yeah. You know, like I said, all boils down to the discipline.
Yeah.
Maybe they were disciplined enough to be tough and go through the reins and understand that the 11 that are here, you know, they were disciplined. They had good parenting. They never give up. Their parents taught them never to give up, never always work hard. That's very important too. You know, it's your work ethic and how you train your kids. Do they give up? When it gets hard, you know, push them. I agree with that. You push them so that they last and they become function. They can think under pressure. They can think when they're tired. You know, I'm a firm believer. You know that mind over matter. Firm believer. I believe you can push yourself to extraordinary levels and make it. It's all what you want to do. And as a parent, I believe, of course, you're going to, you know, don't just push your 7-year-old kid to do what and expect what a teenager is going to do. You got to know how to do the process. Come on, boy, get up. That's okay. Don't cry. Stand up. Try again. You know, and if he doesn't want to do it, fine. Find an interest that he likes to do. Because every one of us have something we're really good at. We just got to find what we're good at in. You know, but also don't be afraid to let your kids try new things too, so they can understand competition and they can understand different levels of hardship. You know, what do you think, Trev?
No, definitely. Like how Nate was saying, pushing them, and And again, people have to know where to push to and what to do. When you see your kid about to break, you should stop and explain to them. Tell them, look, you know,
The distant player
Yeah.
coming up.
but I mean, but some people, a lot of people probably listen to that and it's like, oh, but you can break them. Contraire. You got to learn how to, when you see them about to break, stop it. And then right before, you want to get them right before you break, not
Yeah.
when they're far out from breaking.
Yeah.
That doesn't teach anything.
Because they're not
people.
going to listen.
That doesn't do jack squat. You got to get them to the part of right when they're about to break or broken. And right when they're about to break, then you explain to them, you know, hey, this is how real life's going to be. You're going to be pushed. And guess what? It's all going to pass. Like I remember when I first started doing construction and then I was running a job and then one of the big foremen straight up said, Trav, you're going to get jobs and you're going to think you're going to get killed. And he goes, just think of it as a little tunnel. Or a tunnel, a very long tunnel. At the end of the tunnel, you see a hole, like just a glimpse of light. He goes, just keep pushing, just keep driving forward to that light because it's eventually going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until you're out of that tunnel. And so he told me that. And after I heard that, every time I came into a very rough situation, I would just, in my mind, I would envision a long tunnel with like a pinhole light that I could see at the very end. And I would just keep pushing till I could get to that point. And after that, my mindset was totally different, you know. It was set to be one certain way, like, oh, wow, you can. And I've done it. I went through many jobs where I was like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to do it. And sure enough, as long as you keep pushing, you'll get through. And that's what you want to instill in your kids. You tell them the same exact story, that the light will get there. And to me, a way that, best way to do it is give them something hard to do. And they're like, I can't do it. And you just tell them, just keep trying it. And you see that they're getting closer and closer of getting something like in there, like whatever it may be, if they're putting together something. And it's like just a little bit more. You stay there next to them. No, you got it. It's almost there. And when they start getting frustrated, you just watch them and you tell them, try to put it back. And you just kind of guide their hand barely, and let them just fit the piece and see, you got it. I barely even helped you. It's like bench pressing. You could put on like 300 pounds and you by yourself, you're like, oh, God, but somebody come spot me. And they just barely touch the bar with their finger and you start pushing it. And you're like, yeah. And the guy's like, I didn't do nothing. You're like, oh, but I couldn't do this before.
Yeah.
And that shows a mind over matter part. And it's the same thing with your children. You can do that, but people, a lot of people just get lazy or don't have the patience to do it. But you have to push that envelope. You got to push it to the part of where you're watching where they're at and you see where their strengths and weaknesses are. Don't work with them on their strengths, work with them on their weaknesses. Every single time. What you think?
But encourage their strengths though.
Yes.
Like complement their strength. That's very important because that strength is going to help them get over the weakness. So that's very important. Like for me, I feel like, you know, I was a powerlifter, so I did things naturally, and I never took no protein, nothing. So I realized how much my body could really, really do, and I was impressed. And a lot of it was my mind. So I kind of do that with my children. I always tell my son, no, there's something in you, boy, that you can unlock that will push you and make you the best at whatever you want to do. There's something in you, but you have to unlock it. But you got to tell daddy where and what it is, and we can unlock it together. So that's the thing about, communication part about your children too, is you got to talk to them. You got to get to know what they like and what they dislikes. And then the dislikes, you can slowly bring it in to them so that they start to like it or they start to tolerate it or they overcome it. Like for me, when I was growing up, I was afraid of being afraid. I didn't like to be afraid. So I did things like jumping off one cliff into the water, like 60 feet. Going to like the freshwater ponds in Maui and jumping off 70 feet into one hole that looked like this big from the top. Going inside. I didn't like to be afraid. If I knew I was afraid of it, I want to conquer it. I played football in Division 1 at the time where I was a center. And I played against guys 6'5", 350, and I was afraid of them. But I threw myself even harder at them because I was afraid. And a lot of that was I had good uncles, and my grandpa told me, boy, if you fear something, you can overcome it if you use your head and if you have the will. When you confronted by problems, it's whose will is stronger, yours or theirs. You can outwill somebody. Or you can outwill a situation. And it was because I was taught and I was shown discipline. I never got away with nothing with my mom, nothing, to the point where I did rebel as I got older, but I always came back to her values. Listen, boy, you gotta you gotta conduct yourself respectfully in society. I come back now and understand what my mom meant, why she pushed me so hard, and why I got scolding every time I made a mistake. I was afraid to make mistakes. And sometimes it can get overwhelming, but sometimes that's a good thing, because if you have perfection, you'll thrive in anything you do, because everybody like, wow, this person is driven. He has the will to do the best at what he does. And you want that for your kids. And when your kids fall, when they don't meet that expectation, that's when you come in and you guide them and say, okay, son or daughter, that's okay. Let's find out, like he was saying, what was the weak point, and let's figure this out together. And have patience. Now, if you don't have the mindset, don't do that yet, because you don't want to crush your kids because you're impatient and because you're mad. I made plenty failures at this, that I realized that if you can love them and encourage them through their mistake, they're going to make less. And they're going to use their head to get out of that mistake. They're going to remember, oh, this is what my dad or my mom taught me how to get out of this situation. Because you're going to find out in life, you have repetitive problems. It's going to keep coming around. For instance, bills. A repetitive thing. If you have a house, you got to pay that house for 30-something years. It's a repetitive problem. Then you will find out, but you found, for some strange reason, you as a smart individual, get it done every day or every month. And why? Because you were taught. You're disciplined to work. If I work, I got to pay the bills. If I don't work, I'm going to be homeless. Same thing with your kids. Teach them how to conquer problems and be with them, and be with them as they're going through the process. What you think, Jeff?
No, definite. I agree. It's everything is going to be there is teaching them the values of everything. Like mine is, I think, and if you didn't have those values growing up, I'm pretty sure you're seeing those values as you're working. I think a lot of people should instill those values to their kids that they see even at work, because that's all going to come down to it. Humans, we're
repetitive by nature, honestly.
That, and also they like to be,
and we're resilient.
Yeah, and you also like to be around people.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody, but a vast majority of people like to be around people, and you want to kind of teach that to your children, and what to do and what not to do. Because if you don't, they're gonna be the ones that's gonna be either depressed or suicidal or whatever. You know what I mean? They're gonna have issues mentally if you don't teach it to them when they're younger. I mean, granted, there is always the one-offs or two-offs that can happen to you, but you want to better your odds for your children. You want them to be more successful than you. But to become more successful than you have to put them through what you went through, but teach them what you learned as well as you got older.
Yeah.
That is the key part.
Yeah.
Because I notice a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah. And show them what disciplines you took on to get there.
Yes.
How disciplined you have to be to achieve that goal. Sorry, go ahead.
No, definite.
Since we're talking about discipline, right?
Yeah.
Discipline is very important.
And again, remember, after you discipline them, it's always letting them know why you disciplining them. And like I said, is before, when I would discipline my kids, I would just more so be more aggressive on my tone and stuff. Now I don't even do that. I just say, hey, you messed up. Like very calm. Like it's like a poker game. You messed up. So what are you going to do? You know what I mean? There's a consequence. Now there's a punishment. It has to happen immediate. It cannot be they did it and, oh no, we're going to wait. No, it's they did it. Hey, you messed up. Do you know what you did? Oh yeah, I didn't take out the trash, or I'm just giving an example. Blah, blah, blah. Or I left my trash on the ground, didn't throw it away. Okay, great. So now you're going to pick that up. Now you're going to go outside and now you're going to rake the whole yard, or you're going to pull weeds, or you're going to go running. Immediate. immediate. And another thing that I used to do when they run or whatever is while they're doing the physical activity, I make them say, I will not leave my trash on the ground, or I will listen. Whatever they did that they did wrong, I make them repeat it so it sticks in their head as they're doing the punishment. And I stay there. It's not like I just stay in the house and watch it. I mean, Nate's seen me plenty of times outside my house, and I just pacing right next to him. I tell him, you better run faster than I can walk. And I would tell him, say it again. And when I see them about to break, I'd say mind over matter. And then they would say that, and I'd tell them, keep running. You're not going to die. Never die. It's not like you're making them run for 2 hours straight. Think about it. Kids go to recess 15, 30 minutes, and they running around the whole time with no water, and they not stop running. You know what I mean? They're playing with all their friends, getting nuts. There's no difference of you making them do that at home. You just got to get creative. Hey, you don't have a yard or a front place or you place you can go out and make them run? Make them do planks. Make them do burpees. You can get creative with what you want to do, and you make them understand why they're doing it. I think
the most important thing about it is don't give them a reason to resent you.
Exactly.
After your punishment, explain to them and love them through it. They will come back to you all the time.
That's true.
Your kids will never be mad at you. They want to get better. They'll talk to you again. That's what you want. You want your kids to keep talking to you. Don't forget to love them and talk to them why you did it. That's the most important thing.
That's very key.
Because I grew up, that didn't really happen for me. I just got disciplined and that was it. But the thing about it is you want your kids to come to you and to accept the punishment and accept the consequences. That's the most important thing, I think. And the most important thing, I think, also is after you discipline them, love them after that. That way they know that if they make a mistake, they can come to you. They can confess to you. And they won't hide anything from you. And they won't be a sneaky person in life. Because all you did was listen and tell them you love them and explain to them why. There's a saying, I'm a Christian in the Bible, don't let the sun go down in anger. Clear the air before you go sleep. Very important. That way tomorrow's a new day. You rise, it's a new day. We make a mistake yesterday, they strive for the next day. That way they're not even pondering what they did yesterday. They're pondering about being better or moving forward. That's what I think is most important. When you love them after you discipline them and communicate with them after. That's what I think is very important.
Well, we were talking earlier, and then on top of that point right there, what Nate was just stating was we were talking about when your kids do something wrong, when they tell the truth, you still have a punishment, but you make it where the punishment is less severe. So, like Nate was giving an example was, if you tell me the truth, you're still going to get punished. So I'll take away your tablet for 10 minutes, and that's what it's going to be because you told the truth, but what you did was wrong. This is a consequence. Example. If you don't tell me what the truth is and give me a I don't know or a lie, it's going to be, I'm taking that thing away for the whole day, and you know what I mean? You're not going to get to do jack squat, and you can go running outside or whatever. That's just an example. As a parent, when you raise your kids, you want them to tell you the truth, even if it's going to upset you.
You want them to.
So what you should do is you should try to have them tell you that, but just tell them there's a consequence to your action. Every action has a reaction. I'm happy you told the truth, but here's a punishment to go with it because of what you did. And me and Nate was both talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I do the same thing. I just tell me the truth. And it'll be a less severe punishment. If not, I ground you a whole day or 2 days, or I take away everything. All you can do is just read and write. You make it to the point of where they want to tell it to you, even though it's going to hurt you, but at least they're telling you the truth instead of lying.
I'm a strong believer on that, Trev. If you talk to your kids and you bother them, you're going to find out they can be depressed. You can fix that. You're going to find out they're suicidal. You can fix that. You can find out if they're going to do stuff like the combine. You can fix that. But you're not going to know if you don't communicate with them.
Yep.
You're not going to know what they're thinking if you don't let them talk to you, if you don't let them express why they feel this way. You're not going to know. Have to know. You have to know if your kid's okay mentally and physically. You have to know if you're getting bullied. You have to know if you're doing drugs. You have to know these things. Okay, there's ways you can do it now. You don't have to be present. Hey, what's wrong? Hold on. There's ways like, hey, what's up, boy? Oh, girl, you okay? I good, dad. Come. Buy one soda, one ice cream or something. Come, voila, come talk story. And the more you persist with, I believe, with compassion and love to your kids, they're gonna break down. Kids is, like everyone else, we're hard at first, but if we keep chipping away slowly and letting the sun and love melt it away, it breaks. It breaks. Okay, and you gonna know they're lying to you to get you to shut up, but try again the next day. Try again the next day. If you know they're lying to you, talk to them some more. Talk to them until they reach a point. Make them laugh. Make them humorous. Don't be the point where you're always pointing the finger at them. They're going to get enough of that when they go out in the workforce. We all know that. Our boss like to just point fingers. We all know that. They're going to have to do that for another 40 years, have somebody just pointing finger at them. So as a parent, we also have to teach them that we love them too, if that makes sense, when they get in discipline, and that they can make mistakes too. That's what I believe. What you think, Trev?
No, I agree. I mean, everything he said about that part makes the most sense. You have to do that. And like I said, if you don't do it, you're just going to create more
friction and chaos.
Well, not only that, but you're gonna create more people that do not contribute to society, and then we're gonna be in the problem we're in.
Yeah.
You're gonna have people that don't want to work, feel entitled, think they should get paid more before they actually do the work. You have all these kind of things that just come in that isn't good. Period. You have a bunch of lazy people, you ain't gonna get nothing. They're not gonna be driven. You're gonna have less entrepreneurs. All you're gonna have is a bunch of the rich parents that had their kids that are, maybe they got taught how to be entrepreneur, or they're just going to be spoiled little turds, one or the other. But that's just things that, as much as it may hurt you, you're going to want to do it so that it doesn't hurt you in the future. There was a saying, is either you teach your kids and raise them correctly, or you're going to raise your grandkids. It's up to you. Or you raise your kids right, and then you get to have fun with your grandkids. You know what I mean? Or you're going to raise your kids when they get older, regardless. So you don't want to raise your kids and your grandkids at the same time. I wouldn't want to, But you want to teach them that. You want them to have that parts. You want them to have those pieces of you, and just teaching them that all the things you were taught, the work ethic, why you have to go to school. I hated school, but why you have to go to school, I think it's kind of pointless, but whatever. That's just my thought. But you have to learn. It teaches you to socialize. It teaches you some other things. You want to learn history, because what goes around comes around, like anything else. You want to know all these things, and you want to try to do that for them. You don't want to be a crutch for them. You just want to be there as like a little nudge. Come on, you can do it, instead of being, here's this. Or you be the polar opposite and just be like, just hounding them the whole way. You better get A's, and that's all you're gonna get. Or if not, you're gonna be grounded. You can be that. I mean, if you're that parent, that's a total extreme. You want to kind of be right in the middle, but you want to instill the values. You have to have a limit. Everything has to have a limit. You only can go like a speed limit, right? You only can go so fast, and if not, the cops can pull you over and major ticket. You're trying to teach that limit so that your children know that there's a limit in life that they can do, where they can go up to on rules and stuff before there's a penalty. No, there is no limit when you have goals and you're trying to achieve something, but there's limits on like what you can do legally, or what you should or shouldn't be doing. You can't be stealing, you can't be lying to people, or cheating them out of money, or bribing people, or blackmailing them. That's the things you're teaching them, all these little things that you may not realize, good or bad, however which way you're doing it. They're watching you all the time, regardless if you think they are or not. They're watching you. They see what ethics you have. Oh, my dad is always working. My mom is always home. Now you have to explain to them, like some kids would be like, oh, my dad was always working and, blah, blah, blah. But guess what? He was working so you could have everything. But you have to explain that as a parent or as parents. You have to explain that to your kids. Like, hey, I have to work this much so you guys can get this much. Be smarter than me when you get older, Raise to the top. That's come you want to have a good work ethic. That's come you want to be always thinking ahead. You always want to project out 5 steps ahead. You're always aiming at calculated risks better. You want to have that, and you want to teach that to your children so that when they get older, they understand that, and they're not going to go through as much as you have to go through, hopefully. But again, to tell you the truth, as a successful person that wants to be successful, they have to put in time. I don't care what. Now, it's different if you're gonna just slave away and you just love your job and you want to work that much. That's up to you, and that's solely up to you. But when you're teaching your kids, what do you want them to have? Do you want them to be able to use their minds, build up to a higher position, get comfortable, still work, because I think it keeps you sane. But do you want to have them do that, or just bust their butts all the way to their like 60s, 70s, or 80s and have nothing to set retirement because they didn't have any knowledge or nothing up through your mistakes that you're not telling them? So that's just my last words that I think I have to say about having your kids, and disciplining and communication. Very important,
Very, very, very important.
So to close it off, guys, I think you should be on your kids, but make sure when you discipline them, if it's either timing out, talking to them, making them write sentences, giving them spankings because they did something, at the end of it all, I think you should really talk to them and tell them, I still love you, but this is what you did that ended to this consequence. First I gave you a verbal warning and you didn't listen. Then I made you time out. You still never listen. So I had only thing left to do is to spank you. Then you did listen because now it hurt, or it went up to I took away your phone or iPad, or I didn't let you watch TV or play a video game. Then they start to listen. They're going to get mad. But guess what? As a parent, you just tell them, hey, bro, in real life, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, and always explain, then always bring out a positive from their negative actions.
Look, you learned at the end of the day.
Don't forget don't leave it as negative. Always end it with a positive note.
Yeah, at least you told the truth. But you had to get lickings for it, but at least you told the truth. It would have been way worse if you didn't. Stuff like that, guys. Well, I hope this kind of helped you with some information on our outlooks of what me and Nate kind of do. And we'll see you next week.
Raja.
Kidding.